What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jocks of All Trades podcast here. I'm Kyle. No Brad tonight, but just me. So it's going to be me and you just talking about the NFL and college football. We usually start off with the buzz, and that's where we're going to go first. The biggest buzz out there right now is Matt Rule. He's out. He's out as the Panthers head coach. He got fired, rightfully so, in my opinion. Um, they never won a game when their defense gave up more than 17 points. Um, just mismanaged that entire roster. I know he's not the only person in that organization to handle the roster. GM, owners, all those people above him, scouts, they have a lot to do with that. But, um, he I guess you could say he swung for the fences with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and Matt Corral, but I don't know if I could classify that as swinging for the fences. They gave up a lot of picks. They gave up a lot of money, a lot of resources for three guys who I don't think any of them are going to be legit QB1s for the Panthers. And hey, what's up, KTC Bull? Long time no see, brother. How you doing? Um, yeah, it's a really bad day to be a Panthers fan. I think because you have a lot of good players on that team. Like for what it's worth, Matt Rule did get J.C. Horn, even though he got hurt his rookie year, he's looking pretty good. Brian Burns, we know that he's a stud. Um, McCaffrey, when he's healthy, he's really good. DJ Moore is having a weird year, but like we know talent that he has. They picked up Ike Ekwonu. Derek Brown's a good player. Jeremy Chinn's a good player. Um, and they got some dudes on that team, and that's uh, Matt Rule did a lot for that, I guess, for a couple of those guys anyway. But ultimately, when you don't have a quarterback, you can't compete. You can't win. You can't win games. You can't win your division. You can't win the conference. You can't win Super Bowls. Just not possible uh, to do that in this league without a quarterback. And when you give up all those resources for guys and they don't work out, your team's screwed. I mean, you look at a lot of the teams around the league; they put most of their money in their quarterbacks. They put most of their resources in their quarterbacks. Um, and then they sparingly everywhere else as best as they can. Or you're lucky enough to have a quarterback on a rookie contract, and you spread your wealth on other places. And the Panthers spread all their wealth in their quarterback position, and they didn't do anything. So if you're going to put all your wealth at the quarterback position, uh, they have to do something more for your team. And none of those guys did. So what's the next step for Matt Rule? He's going to collect $40 million, sit on his couch. That's what I would do. But he'll probably go back to college. Why not? I think teams are going to want him. I think he is a program builder in college. Probably not an NFL guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Look at Nick Saban. He went to the pros, didn't cut it, went back to college, and he's legit. He's good. Some guys just fit for college. Some guys aren't fit for the NFL. Chip Kelly too, great example with UCLA doing hot right now, doing really well. Didn't fit the NFL game, but he's killing it with UCLA right now. I think he is more suited for the college game. The Panthers' next step. Um, talk about that in a little bit. Other news: Falcons trade Deion Jones to the Browns. Are the Falcons sellers now? Deion Jones at one point I thought was one of the best middle linebackers or outside linebackers, cover linebackers in the league. I think he's fell off from grace a little bit, but for the Falcons to trade him for not that high of a pick, it is telling for the Falcons. I think they know what they know. They see what we see, that they can't even get Kyle Pitts the ball. He's their best player. Marcus Mariota has been, never was. Um, they need a lot of talent on defensively and offense, honestly. Offensive line's not getting any younger. I like Drake London. Calvin Ridley come back next year. Hopefully he's not gambling anymore and he's a stud. But ultimately, again, our team that does not have a quarterback. And I guess with this Deion Jones trade, they don't see him in their future. And the Browns need help in the middle of their defense, no doubt. They lost a linebacker earlier in the year. I believe that was Anthony Walker. So they need a lot of help defensively. The Browns do, but the Falcons are the sellers. I think they should be, and I think the Panthers should be sellers as well. Listen, Brian Burns is a heck of a defensive end. I think he has the second most pressures in the entire league. Um, but if you're going to tell me by the time his second contract rolls around, the Panthers will be a good team, I'm gonna call bull on that one. By the time his second contract comes, um, if it hasn't already, either way, he's not going to want to be on a team that continually struggles. I believe the owner even said, like, we need a culture shift, we need a culture change. This culture hasn't been good in a while. And it's true, besides the one MVP Cam year, it's hard for them to get back to relevancy. So he might have to start from ground zero here. And to start from ground zero, I mean, you need to recoup some picks, get those assets that I was talking about, get some more money in your bank. Like, you're paying those quarterbacks a lot of money collectively. And it's fine to hang on to one of them next year. If you go after a quarterback this year, let's say they trade up for Bryce Young or CJ or God forbid Will Levis, something that would be a good pick. But um, Hendon Hooker, if they did, get one of those guys, they'd be in rebuilding mode for sure. But you have to give up assets to get that number one quarterback. And again, they don't have many assets in this year's draft. They have their number one pick and number two pick, second round pick, fourth and a fifth, I think. And the first and second are good, but after that, it's abysmal. So to recoup those picks, they need to be sellers. What can they sell? I think they should sell Brian Burns. They should get an arm and a leg for him. I'd sell McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey is a very talented running back, one of the most talented running backs in the league in terms of pass blocking, catching out of the backfield, shifty, speed. He's a lot of stuff that you admire and you want in a running back, but he's just not going to be the guy long term when this team wants a Super Bowl run. Um, are the Giants or elite or Packers just bad? I would say the Giants are good and the Packers are not as good. That's what I would say. KTC Bowl. I think what we saw in that game is the Giants just had the Packers number. The Packers did not adjust at all to the Giants' offensive game, and the Giants' offensive game was pretty darn simple. It was a bunch of PA rollouts, play action, Daniel Jones on the run, stepping up in the pocket, running when something wasn't there. It was a lot of his mobility was the Giants' key to the offensive game. Saquon Barkley had a good game, but his best carry, that's where most of his yards came from. Packers defensively did not adjust, did not do a good job against a pretty bland Giants offense. I mean, they had no outside receivers. Their starting receivers were Darius Slayton and Sills from West Virginia. And when your main piece of the offense is Saquon Barkley or Daniel Jones running the football, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jones played a good game. He managed that game well, didn't force the ball, so kudos to him. But their offensive game plan wasn't great, and the Packers for some reason just could not stop it. Also, the Packers offense didn't run the ball very well, and I would kind of credit that to the Giants. So I think they're a little bit underrated on their defensive line. I don't think the Giants secondary is great. But if you had a good passing game, you could have beaten the Giants secondary. But the Packers don't have that right now. Robert Tunyon's an okay tight end, but outside, Christian Watson can't stay on the field. Romeo Doubs is just a rookie. Amari Rodgers from Clemson a few years ago, he's not living up to his billing. And then we also have Randall Cobb, who's ancient. There's not many options there. Allen Lazard's a decent player. He's been killing it for me in fantasy for sure. But in terms of a number one receiver, he's not that. He doesn't get open as often as he should. We're talking about the Panthers rebuilding, maybe selling. I think the Packers should go all in on DJ Moore if that's possible. They need a weapon on that team, on the outside. And DJ Moore can do a heck of a lot more for you than just run routes and be open by a smidge, and Aaron Rodgers makes a killer throw to get him the ball. I think he can run routes pretty well. I think he has deep speed. I think he has yak ability, and that's something that the Packers desperately need. They probably won't do it because they're scared to again, put a lot of resources into their receiver position, hence getting rid of Devontae Adams. Um, so yeah, KT Super Bowl. I think it's a little bit of both. I think the Giants are good, and the Packers just not as good in their game plan that week. I think if push comes to shove and Giants play the Packers, you know, 10 times, I think we see the Packers win the majority of those games. I do. But Giants are playing well right now. I think you got to give them a lot of kudos, a lot of credit. Give Dable a lot of credit for what he's done with that team, with not a lot of talent outside of Saquon Barkley right now. Let's talk about the Broncos next. They're bad, man. They're really, really bad. They have no identity at all. Their defense is good. It's fine. Simmons and Surtain's a heck of a player. Chubb's good. They got a decent defensive line there. But that offense is abysmal. Russell Wilson has a shoulder injury, but I can't. You can't just blame it on that. Like, oh, that's why their offense stinks. No, it's not just a shoulder injury, man. It's everything. It's shoulder injury. But also it's injury. But also it's the offensive line. The running backs fumbling the balls. The receivers not getting open. When they do, they can't catch the ball. It's a lot of things. Play calling. Daniel Hackett, what are you doing? Hackett's a really bad coach from what I've seen so far. You can get better, no doubt. People aren't a finished product in week 4, week 5. Like that's the obvious thing. They're not a finished product yet, and he could be a good coach by the end of the year. You progress, you get better for sure. That's anybody, any position, any job, you can get better. But right now, he's not doing well. He had to get a coach to come on to his staff so he could run the day-to-day things or run game management, clock management. I don't know what it was, but he's desperate for some help because he's just not doing well. I think he calls the plays too. When you're calling the plays, but also trying to manage a game, if you're young, if you're inexperienced, that doesn't tend to go well. And maybe you should give up play calling duties. Maybe he should rely more on his assistant. And if he doesn't figure it out soon, are not gonna be happy. And I can see him gone sooner rather than later. But on top of that, Russell Wilson's just not playing well. If we look at that KB segment, Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football. If you guys watch that, go ahead and watch that. I think that's a good clip. He talked a lot about Russell Wilson as a person, not as much as a football player. So that's kind of where, it's a little shaky of an argument. But ultimately, he's like, Russell Wilson just doesn't have the trust of his football team. He's getting paid $200, $300 million, whatever it is. Give up a lot of picks for him. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Yet he's doing all these ads, doing all these weird things that Broncos country, let's ride. Like, look at his segments, look at his post game interviews. It's all just very weird. I'd call it fake. I don't know. I don't know the person. I don't know Russell on a personal level, but things could be falling fast for them. They could be flailing very quickly because when you have a quarterback like that who's getting paid a lot of money, like we said, all those assets going into him, when the rest of your team is he's not living up to his billing. You have the coach who's majorly struggling, but you have the personality of Russell Wilson still alive and well, and that weird factor, fake factor, whatever you want to call it, things could blow up very quickly. So the next step for the Broncos is you need to find an identity. Listen, Javonte's out for the year. That sucks. Big time. But as receivers go, I mean, I understand Judy has not lived up. His hands are subpar, but he has ability. Like he has yak ability. Can run a lot of deep balls. He's very quick, very elusive, very fast. We know all those athletic abilities that he has. So something to work with there. Courtland Sutton's a good receiver. KJ, not your number one, but he's quick, he's fast. Like he can run routes, he can get open. He was open on that last play where Russell Wilson just did not see him at all. But you have ability there at the receiver position. Tight ends okay with Alberto. Offensive line's getting banged up quickly. That's definitely a struggle. And Melvin Gordon is a shell of what he used to be, but he's okay. Like there's definitely worse running backs out there to have. They need to find an identity, and I don't think they have one. I don't think they know what they want to do next. But that is the next step for them, is to find out what kind of offense do they want to be. Because Russell Wilson's pretty good on the move. Also, he throws a pretty good deep ball. Like, they need to figure out what they can do in the running game to set up the passing game. And that's the only way they're gonna take the next step. Is their defense is gonna keep them in games, but you got to score. You got to score more than your opposing team, and they really haven't done that. The Packers, the Rams, they're both kind of falling down quickly. Um, just not a good start for them, honestly. Rams offensive line is bad. It's old. They've put some picks into their offensive line, but mostly it's like mid-round picks. It's not good enough. They definitely miss Andrew Whitworth for sure. But even last year, the Rams, they won the Super Bowl, so give them credit. Credit is due. But their offensive line was not much better than the Bengals' offensive line. Matt Stafford's getting hit a lot, but also he's making really bad throws. He doesn't target anyone else besides Cooper Kupp. That is a problem. I don't know why it is. Al Robinson, I think, is still a decent receiver. You can't tell me that an injured Robert Woods is 10 times better than him. I don't think he is. They need to figure it out fast. But this is also the problem when you have a team like the Rams, who have a lot of guys that you pay over $100 million, really good All-Pro, Pro Bowl players, and you put all of your picks into a Von Miller, into a Matt Stafford. When you have those guys who have taken up all these picks, all this money, you don't have assets to shore up the bad parts of your football team, and that is the offensive line. And there's nothing really to do to fix an offensive line in the middle of the year. It's one of the hardest things to do. I mean, if your receiving core is bad, you can trade for a stud receiver, and that can solve some of your issues. If your running backs are bad, you can trade for a good running back, and that can solve some of your issues. If you don't have a good pass rush, you can get a pass rusher, and he can solve some of your issues. But like the offensive line as a whole is not good. Getting one guy in there, it's not going to do enough. Packers are very different. I think they have a good offensive line, not great, but good offensive line with their injuries up there. But their passing game is horrible. And their defense is not living up to what they're supposed to be. Every year it seems like that. They go out and get Devontae Wyatt, I believe, from Georgia. They go out and get Quay Walker. These guys, I don't think they even do much right now. So questionable what the Packers are doing for sure. Yeah, I think new teams are going to be ushered in here. Packers and the Rams have both been pretty good teams the last decade or so. Obviously, only 2 Super Bowls combined for them. However, they've been there. They've done that. So I think we're going to see new teams be ushered in here as perennial like those teams. Because both of their quarterbacks are aging. Their backup plans aren't good. And they put a lot of stock into their quarterback position and don't have much anywhere else. So we will see what happens with the Rams and the Packers. I did want to talk about. I did want to talk about the roughing call against Tom Brady. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's a pretty bad hit, but a pretty illegal hit. And they got called for roughing the passer. I mean, what should be done? I don't know. These referees just don't have consistency when it comes to these kinds of calls. Tom Brady gets a lot of calls. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was like paying the refs to do it. I just think it's more of a seniority thing than anything, and more of a refs just looking out for it. I don't think Tom Brady paid the refs to do it. I don't think anyone paid the refs to call it this way. I just think the refs don't get taught well, and the motion that Grady Jarrett had against Tom Brady, I mean, he did slam Brady to the ground. So, like, it was definitely forceful and I guess in a way excessive. I still think it was legal. Like hitting that hard is just part of the game. So that they just need to reinforce those kinds of calls. Reinforce like what roughing the passer actually is. I don't think it's that. Daniel Jones, like I talked about earlier, played a good game against the Packers. And thanks for that question, KTC Bull, about the Giants and Packers. I appreciate that. But Daniel Jones had a good game. But I don't know if he's the guy to lead the Giants in the future. I really don't. We know he's mobile. We know he's maybe confident, a good leader. But you got to be a good passer as well. But the thing I will give him is that his situation has not been good in terms of offensive coordinator, in terms of offensive line, tight end, and receivers. Like even Barkley was hurt. Like he has not had the best things around him at all. It's been very, very bad for him. So it's tough for the Giants. It's truly tough for the Giants because they are a good team right now. I don't know what the record will end up being at the end of the year, but let's say it's like middle of the road, 8-9, 9-8, 7-10. Barely miss the playoffs, or even barely make the playoffs. You're looking at like a 14 to 21 draft pick window there, and if Daniel Jones plays okay throughout the rest of the year, but without all this talent around them, will they be like, let's give him another shot till next year when we finally have some weapons around him? But then you're missing out on all these good guys in this draft. So it's a very tough decision. The Giants are in a good place, don't get me wrong. But it's also a scary place for decision makers to know what to do with Daniel Jones. Next is trouble in Pittsburgh. Cam Hayward just retweeted a tweet like a couple hours ago. It was this. It said, BS, I can't stand Tomlin. He's a fraud clown that's been carried by Ben his entire career. However, Cam Hayward was running 30 yards downfield on these plays to make tackles the linebackers wouldn't make. Cam Hayward retweeted that. There's trouble brewing in Pittsburgh, I think, with Mike Tomlin, with that team, with that culture a little bit. They had a window for sure with that defense, and that window is closing fast. It's closing fast, and I don't think their offense can catch up in time for that window to be still open. However, well, it's a little bit of a muck, a little bit of a mess right now. I think you can have some confidence in that, like, Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Deontay, Pickens, Freiermuth, like, wouldn't call it the best core of receivers, tight end, quarterback, and running back in the league, but it's fairly good, and I think it has a good ceiling, even a high ceiling on that. Where you need to progress and put your assets into is the both sides of the line and secondary a little bit too, and I guess middle linebacker, since they don't like those guys. Najee Harris can't go anywhere, and people are screaming for Warren or whatever the heck his name is, and I mean, he's not doing that great either. Let's be honest. Like, he might get like 0.6 yards per carry more than Najee, but Najee's a heck of a back. So it's crazy to suggest that Najee isn't the guy, or that Freiermuth isn't the guy, or Pickett isn't the guy. Like, it just needs a culture change a little bit. You need to get an offensive line for those guys, and then just let it work, let it run, and see how it goes. So there is trouble in Pittsburgh, I think, and they're going to need to change that. I don't know if it'll be mid-season. I don't know if it'll be end of the season, but I have a hard time believing that they're going to turn it around. They could. If TJ Watt comes back, defense steps up a little bit, they could turn it around, but like, how much will they turn it around? I don't foresee them winning out and going to the playoffs. If anything, they could maybe be a 500 team by the end of the year, but I'm being a little too positive on that maybe. So we'll see. We'll see on the Steelers. But yeah, the other games, guys, Colts 12, Broncos 9, Eagles 20, Cardinals 17, Ravens 19, Bengals 17, Cowboys 22, Rams 10. Cowboys are looking pretty good. 49ers 37, Panthers 15, Jets 40, Dolphins 17, Bills 38, Steelers 3, ouch, Saints 39, Seahawks 32, Titans 21, Commanders 17. Wentz throws another pick at the end of the game. Vikings 29, Bears 22, Texans beat Jaguars 13-6, Bucks 21, Falcons 15, Patriots 29, Lions zip, Chargers 30, Browns 28, Giants 27, Packers 22. The big thing out of these games that I saw was Trevor Lawrence really needs to step up his game. He's made a lot of dumb throws this year. It seems like Carson Wentz is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is Carson Wentz a little bit. Jaguars had that game in hand, like not in hand, but like they had opportunities to go ahead and score. And I think Trevor Lawrence just did a really bad job of putting his team in the right position. My spicy meatball, I don't know if it's that spicy, guys. My spicy meatball take right now is I think the Bears need to have a fire sale on their defense. I'm so sick of seeing Fields throw to nobody and getting hit and slammed and killed and just running around for his life. It's awful. It's not good. Like I know Jalen Hurts runs a lot, but he's usually not running for his life. It's usually designed, usually some scrambles, get down, safe. The Fields is running all over the field to help his team win, and it's sickening. Robert Quinn, Bears aren't doing anything. Get rid of Robert Quinn. Get some picks. Roquan Smith didn't want to be there. Like, okay, we'll ship him out. Like, Eddie Jackson's getting up there. Like, I know you like Eddie Jackson. I know you like Roquan. I know you like Robert Quinn. But, like, some of these guys, they're not going to be there, nor do they want to be there if the Bears ever produce / get better. I think they need to trade and get some picks and help out their offense, help out their offensive line, help out Justin Fields, get him something good. So that's my spicy meatball take of the week. Now we'll do some ads quick. As you can see in the upper right-hand corner, Fresh Cuts, local barbershop in Marion, Indiana, where Brad is from. Get some really fresh cuts there. Contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. And I apologize for all these other people. I don't have the pictures up, but Steve Wood Illustrations. You can look back in our other videos of what wonderful work he does. Here for all your art needs from Star Wars to G.I. Joe and beyond. See him for all you nerds in your life who aren't sure what to get. Really cool illustrations. I definitely recommend checking him out. Then Afro Latinos here. They're changing things up a little bit. Check out the Culture Corner podcast featuring Auburn and Shaylin, and hear from them soon as they are still under construction. They do so much wonderful work at Afro Latinos. Now, Culture Corner, really awesome games and everything that I've been a part of. So really check them out. I think they're going to come up with some awesome and interesting stuff very, very soon. Rules of the Frame is another podcast from our friends specializing in movie reviews, pretty much anything. Connor is a lead there, and I believe he will be a guest on our show soon on Smash Popcorn or anything else that we do. Really cool guy, does really, really good work. I believe he's a professor as well of movies. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but he really knows his movies, is what I'm trying to say. So that's really an awesome podcast that you should be looking at and downloading and listening to. Next is 1000 Wives of Weird. That's another podcast. They do movie reviews of weird movies or criticizing bad movies. Brad and Billy do a wonderful job there. Awesome guys. Definitely keep entertained and laughing. Really cool guys, really funny. So check them out exclusively on Spotify. Next, we're just going to do a little bit of college football here, guys, and then probably wrap it up for the night. So some big things happened in college football this weekend. I don't know, maybe not big, but I guess somewhat noteworthy. Georgia beat Auburn. I guess it's not very noteworthy. But Alabama squeaked out one on Saturday against Texas A&M. Illinois had such a good game against Iowa, 9-6. No, I'm just kidding. Kentucky lost again without Will Levis. Ohio State killed Michigan State. Michigan beat Indiana by 21. Arkansas falls again. Kansas finally lost to TCU. I believe their quarterback Jalen Daniels went out, so that kind of hurt. Tennessee murdered LSU 40-13, and then Texas obliterated Oklahoma 49 to nothing. That was just a massive, massive kill. Didn't really see that coming. But just quickly here, these Ohio State receivers, man, if you watch any of that game against Michigan State, it's just, oof, I haven't seen receivers like that in a while. I mean, all three of them probably going to go to the pros anytime soon. Like, or four of them, I believe. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's going to go pro. Marvin Harrison's son, he's going to go pro. Mbuka, pro. Fleming, pro. Insane. I mean, Alabama receivers of yesteryears definitely takes the cake, but it's close. I think it's close in terms of how many receivers Ohio State has produced and how many receivers Alabama has produced. It's darn close. And I mean, Marvin Harrison looks like AJ Green out there, maybe even better. I don't know. Yeah, if you have a chance to watch the Ohio State Buckeyes receivers go, watch them go. It's impressive. Oklahoma again, like I said, lost 49-0. I was way wrong about them. I think earlier on this podcast, maybe a couple weeks ago, I said Brent Venables can be the program changer, culture shifter, whatever you want to call it. I guess he still could be that. And it's too early to tell for sure. You know, getting your own guys in there, getting your own coaches in there, establishing your culture, it does take a while to do that. I'll give him that. But really giving up 49 and scoring nothing, that's bad. Like, that's really bad. Oklahoma is not, not scarce on talent. They still have a lot of guys from the Lincoln Riley era. I know their quarterback's out, and that is a big deal. Don't get me wrong, but giving up 49 to Texas is really bad. And their year's probably shot. So you got to hope for him. He sticks around a little bit and can show Oklahoma what he can do. But you might have to give him a few years. However, they're going to be in the SEC, and you can't play that kind of defense in the SEC. Yeah, it ain't going to work. So UCLA and USC both win. They're both, I believe, don't have a loss on the year. Very impressive for Chip Kelly. Very impressive for Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. And we talked about earlier, if USC can pull it off, if USC can win right away with all these transfer recruits and everything, and I think that was more doable. But UCLA, I didn't see that at all anywhere for them to come out storming out the gate and going 5-0, 6-0, whatever it is. Truly impressive for them to do that. Dorian Thompson having a good year so far, and then I mean Dak Charbonnet is, I think he's a Michigan boy. He's killing it. It's impressive what he's done. They beat Utah. They beat Washington. They barely beat South Alabama. That's a little bit weird, but they got Oregon, a good test on October 22nd, I believe, and that's going to be a good test for them. So we'll see what Chip Kelly can pull out, and we'll see what kind of program they can build. But both of those teams soon going to be in the Big Ten. Definitely good to see for Big Ten lovers, or maybe it's bad to see if you don't want to play them. But overall, for the Big Ten, I think it's a good thing if those guys are going to be in your division, in your conference, if they can do this well earlier in the year. And then finally, for this segment, guys, is Tennessee going up against Alabama next week. I've seen a lot of Tennessee fans online just rave about their team. They want Bama. They want Bama. And I get it. Like, no one likes to see Alabama win every year. And once you have a good team, like, you want to see how your good team does. You want to see if they can, be with the best, beat the best, hang with them. And you're excited. You're confident because this is the first team Tennessee has had in a long time. I don't know if they can. I mean, if you look at those Alabama pass rushers last week, they were everywhere. Uh, Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, I think his name is Biswell, maybe. Sorry, I don't know that. I'm raving about him. I don't know his name, but I think his number is 41 and 15. And then Will Anderson, they were everywhere. They were flying all over the field. Generated I think 20 pressures maybe between the three of them. Just insane pass rush from them. And beyond that, Alabama's still figuring out their receiver game plan. And last week they didn't have Bryce Young. Bryce Young's a maniac. Don't forget about him. I know he's had a few errors on the year, but gosh dang, he's a Heisman last year. He's probably going to be a number one, should be a number 1 or 2 pick in the draft. So you cannot overlook him. You cannot overlook Nick Saban preparing for this game for Alabama's defense. I mean, sometimes Alabama does play to their competition. They do. And I think Brad would tell you that if he was on here. Sometimes they play down to their competition, and they also play up to their competition. They're gonna be ready for Tennessee. Um, One thing I give Tennessee an advantage though is Hendon Hooker is a mobile quarterback, and from what we've seen from Alabama, they sometimes struggle with those mobile quarterbacks. So that'll be something interesting to watch out for Alabama. But all in all, I don't think Tennessee can pull it off. I really don't. It's not likely. From what I'm seeing, from what I've watched the first 5-6 weeks, from what I've seen from Alabama the last 10 years, um, it's possible. Don't get me wrong, but I think Alabama's just a better team, have more talent. Don't forget about Bryce Young, he's legit. So, and I think that'll wrap it up for this one, guys. No, a short episode, but when it's just me talking, sometimes it's a little bit shorter. So. But guys, keep checking us out. Next week we'll have our Jocks of All Trades podcast here, Jock Talk on Monday. And like always, we have our fantasy segment run by Jay and Matt, and they do an awesome job. So stick around for that, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.